Welcome to the Fantasy 40 Podcast with your host, John Dabari.
I mean, I can beat the shit out of Hollywood Brown if you'd like.
Matt Walker.
Like the DK Metcalf of running back.
And Andrew Berg.
I love Hakeem Butler, actually. He's starting to grow on me.
Remember to like, rate, subscribe on Podbean, iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. Follow the guys on Twitter at the Fantasy 40. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Fantasy 40 Podcast. We are back. Myself, today's host, Matt Walker, and you got John Dabari here. We are sans Andrew Burke, who is on a 2-week sojourn to Disney. He was chugging down pints at Moe's Tavern earlier today via Twitter, and who knows what he's doing or what detention center or drunk tank he's in this evening, but he couldn't join us. So we're doing a two-man weave. How you doing, John?
Good. I fear that he will meet his untimely demise at the hands of an alligator. That was my concern with him going down there. And booze and alligators is a bad combination, so we'll see if he makes it back.
Listen, it's touch and go. He's been very difficult to communicate with thus far. So I don't know if it's the alcohol or the alligator aversion, but he's living his best life right now. That's for sure. So enjoy yourself, Andrew, because we're gonna mess this podcast up. Something serious to get you right back in the swing of editing.
Yes, he's gonna have. I'm actually taking diligent notes of the times we are screwing this up, so he knows exact. I'm making it a little easier for him. He can go back and get the timestamp.
Well, the best part is then you'll have to actually put that piece of paper. You'll have to put that piece of paper in the mail and send it to him because you are averse to technology.
I got this to work though.
Yeah. Hey, listen, it's phase 1, mission complete.
Baby step.
But no, today we are talking about the Scott Fish Bowl. Ironically enough, this was a big bugaboo for one Andrew Burke about a month ago. As you and you've been in it for multiple years now. Last year was my first year in SFB 8, and Andrew was, crying in his beer so all of last year, and he thought he was going to miss out again this year. He was messaging Scott Fish directly and, complaining about it every chance he got on our pod, and he finally got in, and, he's got a little air about himself now, but he's not even here to defend himself on this SFB 9. So be interested in see what type of team he comes away with.
Yeah, the irony of him being so concerned with it and then getting a chance to talk about it, and he's completely missing. But it's got 1,200 people this year. Scott said he had 12,000 applicants, which is pretty fucking ridiculous. But 1,200, Burke squeezed in, one of the elite 1,200.
I would want nothing to do with this if I were Scott Fish. God bless him. He's a better man than us for tackling this monster.
Yeah, for people who don't know, Scott Fish Bowl is a fantasy football tournament. Like I said, this year it's got 1,200 people. I think last year it was 8 something, so he upped it by another 400. It's a lot of dynasty fantasy football writers, a lot of regular redraft football writers, but pretty much fantasy football Twitter is all over this, and then a handful of fans that get to play against analysts from different websites and everything. But it's all for charity. People donate. You can get the T-shirts with RotoWear, and people donate to fantasycares.net and at FFCares on Twitter. But the last couple of years, check out this growth for the donations. 2015, it raised $1,500. 2016, it raised $6,000. 2017, it raised $15,000, and last year it raised over $44,000. So quite a bit of charity money. So it all goes to a good cause.
Yeah, Toys for Tots largely. I know Scott divvies some of it up elsewhere, but fantasy loves the kids. So we got to keep contributing. Reminds me, I got to get my donation into Fantasy Cares. With the draft, next weekend, right?
Coming up.
Monday?
Yes, sir.
So, one, I'm glad that we're talking about this because I've been prepping to sell my house and move for the last couple of weeks, so I've paid this little mind. But Scott did me a huge favor and largely left the scoring unchanged from last year, other than a little wrinkle or two, paying homage to the throwback video game theme that he has going on here. So why don't we dive into this, John? We wanted to get this in advance of it. So you're at 108. I'm at 112. I don't know where Burke is, but I think he actually had a different slot. So all three of us have different draft slots. So our teams should look pretty different when this is all said and done. But what's your initial thoughts on how you're going into this? Some guys you're targeting. You want to break down the scoring a little bit more for people that maybe don't know about SFB9.
Yeah, so the scoring is pretty much standard what most leagues have nowadays. Rushing touchdowns are worth 6. Rushing yards are 0.1 point each. Same for receiving. It's a 0.5 PPR. Tight ends are a full point. This year, much like last year, first downs are worth half a point. Tight ends also premium at 1 full point. The big difference this year is the bonuses we talked about, kind of a video game reference. 50 yards receiving bonus, you get 5 points. And I'm pretty sure you get that for every 50, if I'm not mistaken. So if you get 150 yards, you're getting a bonus 15 points. Rushing, same thing, 50 yards. And quarterbacks are 300 yards, get you 5 points. If it matters to some people, passing touchdowns are worth 6 points, not 4. Interceptions are worth 4. And if that interception is returned for a touchdown, it's another -2. So pick 6 gets you -6 at your quarterback spot. So I will be staying away from the turnover-prone guys if I can help it at quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Aaron Rodgers, the Drew Brees is the guys that keep those interceptions in the single digits and they're still throwing 30-plus TDs are super valuable here. Do you think, and this is just my first blush on that kind of additional bonuses, 100-yard rushing day is 20 points, regardless of anything else, not factoring in touchdowns, not factoring in how many catches they got. Those aren't massive days anymore. I know 100's not a gimme, but don't you think it should be like less than 300 yards should be a bonus for passing? Because that's still somewhat of a decent milestone. I mean, people are throwing more and more, but
yeah, well, I know what Scott has, hearing him on other podcasts in the past, I know he tries to devalue the quarterbacks a little bit or kind of flatten out the scoring a bit. Last year, if I'm not mistaken, outside of quarterbacks, the top 50-ish, give or take, it was almost split down the middle. It was like 22 running backs, 24 wide receivers, and whatever that leaves, 3 tight ends or something like that. So the quarterbacks last year, first overall scoring, no surprise, was Pat Mahomes. But then the next quarterback didn't pop up till number 8 overall, which was Matt Ryan, using the scoring from this year with last year's stats. So it kind of minimizes them a little bit compared to other stuff, but it's pretty balanced scoring, even with the tight end premium. Last year, with tight end being such a shit show, nobody really did much outside of the top guys everybody knew about. It kind of killed off tight end, even with premium scoring, because it was just down league wide for tight ends.
Yeah, I mean, you're referencing that. There were still 3 quarterbacks in the top 10. There wasn't a single wide receiver in the top 10 in the adjusted scoring based upon last year, but we did have 2 tight ends in there. So it still was largely running backs in that top 10. So to that point, we're talking about that 8, 9, 10-ish spot. No wide receivers finished in the top 10 last year. Who's your target at 108?
I'll get back to that in a second. The very top, it did look a little unbalanced, but if you go down to, let's say, go through the first 4 rounds, so through pick 48, there were 15 wide receivers, 14 running backs, 15 quarterbacks, and 4 tight ends. So once you get out of that top tier, which, I mean, truth be told, it's kind of a dice roll. I mean, nobody had Mahomes into the year as QB1, and there were a few outlier performances, I think, last year. It does kind of level off in those first 4. As far as what I'm planning on doing at 8, last year, like you said, luckily the scoring's the same. The bonuses are kind of fluky, so I'm not going to target anybody I think can get me those bonuses. But But last year everybody was going, 2 running backs, 2 quarterbacks in the first 4 picks. I'm probably going to try to do the same thing this year. At number 8, I am hoping to land Mr. David Johnson, but he's been going earlier than that in most of the mocks I've seen. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, I don't begrudge on that. I mean, I sort of I agree with it. There's, this is the league this is the world we're living in these days where receivers are just the primary beneficiaries in fantasy anymore. So even in a half PPR, there's still value. But if you sort these guys out by their average points per game, then there wasn't even a wide receiver in the top 13. DeAndre Hopkins was actually the 14th tying on a points per game. So some of these running backs didn't get hurt. They would have got pushed up as well. Melvin Gordon, James Conner, Kareem Hunt ended up getting suspended. So you still are going to, I don't want to say you're going to win this league by hitting on those running backs, but receivers kind of predictable, and at least my thought at the 112 is it's unlikely I take a receiver at the 1-2 turn for me. I mean, Kelsey's not going to fall. Wouldn't assume he does. To the turn for me, I would take him clearly if he was there, given the value of tight ends. I'm not convinced that Zach Ertz is going to have a repeatable year this year, and I don't think Kittle is worth a top 13 pick, even in this format, personally. So I'm probably going to avoid tight end. I might end up going running back at the 12-13.
I wouldn't hold it against you. It's not a bad strategy given the scoring and what we saw last year. I'm starting to wonder with kind of this running back resurgence. I mean, ADP for Scott Fishbowl so far in the first round, we have seen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Most of these mocks I've seen, and I looked at about 55 of them. The data was compiled. I didn't go through 55 myself. But you're seeing about 8 running backs on average taken in that first round, 7.5, something like that. So it's going to go really running back heavy in the first 2 rounds. I know we're talking about the scoring and doesn't necessarily lean that way. It almost seems, I mean, 0 RB is obviously dead, what we saw the last couple of years where people were just passing on them and running backs were falling. It seemed to bounce back the other way now. I'm wondering if while everyone zigs this year, especially in a tournament like this with so many people and you have to differentiate your lineup to really make some noise, especially when the playoffs hit, because the way this is structured, it's almost like a GPP. When the playoffs come, you're not playing head-to-head anymore. It's just taking the highest scoring team. So to differentiate your lineup, I wonder if it's worth pounding wide receivers early, first 4 rounds, maybe taking 4 top wide receivers, then just filling your lineup with running backs for the rest of the way, hoping to hit on a couple of them that nobody else has.
Yeah, I can't begrudge on that. Running backs pop more frequently than a surprise wide receiver, and I think it was our buddy Derek Brown, Debro, that put something out in the last 3 years. Each of the last 3 years, 3 rookie running backs finished in the top 12 at the position. Can we see that again, even if it's 2 of them? Outside of Jacobs and maybe a little David Montgomery, who's getting some love. I mean, Miles Sanders is starting to be a forgotten man as he's kind of moved along slowly with the Eagles. But you're right. There's a turnover. There's a change at a guard pretty frequently at the running back position. And if you can hit on 1 or 2 of those guys in the later rounds and you have a Devontae Adams and Odell Beckham, 1-2 turn to start, you're going to be pretty consistent. And like you said, once you get into the playoffs, you need to differentiate yourself, but you also need to be able to put up points. And those receivers are almost a sure thing, as sure as you can get. So it's an interesting perspective. I've been so in my head about, one, I'm drafting Joe Mixon at 112. If Joe Mixon said there, I'm taking Joe Mixon at 112.
And these 55,
it's already, the die's been cast for that. I think he's going to.
And these 55 mocks I've looked at, the highest he's gone is 11th. He has not gone before pick 11. So your odds are pretty good at landing him at 12. Yeah. And he's gone as low as 23rd.
So may the odds forever be in my favor, because I'm going to Yeah, that's crazy. Like my thought was, and maybe where you're at, I said if I could be at like 104 and I'm guaranteed one of those big four backs, if you're picking at like 104 and can get, a Barkley, Elliott, McCaffrey, or Kamara, whoever's left, you take the fourth of the four, you let them make the decision for you, and then coming back like a Mixon is sitting there. How don't you start, with those stud type of running backs? But, would you consider a Todd Gurley there? I mean, he could win you the league or lose you the league.
Well, he's looking at my number 8 pick, the ADP, just going on who has been typically taken with this 8 pick throughout the first 4 rounds. My team would be Kelsey, Gurley, Thielen, and Cooper, which is it's a okay start on paper. I'm not taking Kelsey in the first. It's not, to me, the value is not there because all the tight ends after those top 3 are pretty much interchangeable, and I don't mind playing the streaming game. So I'm never going to be taking Kelsey early. I like the value of Gurley in the second. If I'm, fading quarterbacks at that point. And then Thielen and Cooper, I'm not a Cooper guy. Thielen I like, but there's other guys I would prefer to have at that position. I like Thielen as a safe guy, but like I said, especially in the playoffs, you need guys with massive upside to score you a ton of points. And especially what we saw from Thielen last year, kind of fading down the stretch. If he fell to me in the 4th, maybe, but I'm not taking him in the 3rd.
Yeah, I can't blame it because, like you said, he can create your team too. And listen, Kelsey had a shitty week 1, so I actually changed it for weeks 2 through week 16 based on last year's scoring. Kelsey was actually top 5, and he was averaging just a shade under 32 points per game.
Really?
That is 31.7, while Patrick Mahomes was at 35.9 roughly. So he was crazy, but Ertz was right there at 28.6. Still 3 points difference, and then there was quite a precipitous fall. So you don't see the value in getting that by far, tier by himself potentially type player at a premium position given the league format.
I'm not doing it. I'm not faulting others for doing it. I think Mahomes obviously regresses a little bit. I know people have been tweeting about it. I think Matt Berry started it with his 100 things or whatever for this season, that even if Mahomes threw something nuts like 15 less touchdowns, he still would have been the QB1 last year. But I expect that offense to dial it back a little bit. I think it was so, I don't want to say outlier because obviously they had the pieces in place. It wasn't shocking to see it happen, but I think teams adjust to them, and whatever is going on with the running back position and with Tyreek Hill and, Mahomes coming back to earth a little bit, unless he's the greatest quarterback of all time. I think everybody on that team takes a little step back. So I'm not interested in taking any early Chiefs. I'll throw some darts late on, guys like Pringle or my man Darwin Thompson or some of the other wide receivers on the team that aren't going early in these drafts who could possibly vastly outperforming their ADP. If you're taking Mahomes this early, he can only underperform. He can't overperform being QB1.
Yeah, I'm certainly not taking Mahomes because he'll probably be gone by my picks. I'm most likely going to take him, but I'm not going to take a quarterback at the 1-2 turn. But it's funny you were talking about that if you take away 15 touchdowns thing. Is that a thing now? Because I pulled that card on the Eric Ebron at the end of the year when I said if you took 10 touchdowns away from him, he was still a top 5 tight end. So, maybe, Matthew Berry's following me subconsciously, under a burner account so he can steal some of my fantasy goodness because that's my thing.
It is definitely a Mahomes thing that's been floating around.
A bunch of
thieves. But back to me at 8. So I gave you what my ADP dictates my team would look like. Ideally, my first 4 picks, what I'm crossing my fingers for is, like I said, get David Johnson in the first, Deshaun Watson in the second, in the third, Baker Mayfield, and in the fourth, the player I want the most in these 4 rounds, but I'm not going to obviously grossly overdraft him, is Julian Edelman. Given the scoring, he's going to get 8 catches a game every week, right? Mm-hmm. He's going to get at least 50 yards every week. So I'm getting that 5 point bonus for the 50 yards. I'm getting the 5 points for the 50 yards also. So he's at 10. If he gets 8 catches, it's another 4. I mean, he's got to have 14-point floor, right? Each week, minimum.
Yeah, I agree because every catch is a first down for him, so it's pretty much a PPR for Edelman.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about
everyone else.
Bonus too,
yeah, so it's Edelman's living in a PPR world because he lives on those 10-yard completions from Tom Brady. So he's certainly a target. Where's he going?
He is going about 412-ish, end of the 4th.
Oh, okay, I was going to say, you know what? Yeah, that's one I hadn't really looked deeper than kind of the top 15 type guys for my first turn. But yeah, he's certainly a guy I'll be looking at my 3-4 turn because I'm not going to get him at the end of the 4th.
Correct.
Since I'm starting the 4th. But I agree with you. He's about as sure a thing as you can get, barring injury in that offense. So I like that one. I'm going to probably have to steal that one from you. It's my 401 pick. But you said Deshaun Watson. I don't disagree with you that he has as much upside as any quarterback this year. He could easily be the QB1 this year. Even given the format, which, the super flex nature of it, you feel the value, you feel the need to go quarterback in the second. I just don't. I'm not going to try and figure out who's going to be QB1 this year. I think at 5-6, I'm going to get 2 quarterbacks that I'm very happy with. And then I'll draft a third probably at the 9-10.
5-6, you're looking at guys whose ADP is behind where you're picking, which is what, 5-12 and 6-1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lamar Jackson, Ben Roethlisberger, Trubisky, Rivers, Cousins, Josh Allen, Jimmy Garoppolo, Tom Brady. But now I'm down into the 8th round already.
Yeah, I mean, the one ADP, that ADP doc you sent me, it looks like I can see a 6-1 Drew Brees, a 6-3 Jameis Winston, a 6-8 Dak Prescott. Okay, yeah, I'll take that all day. You were talking about guys that aren't going to turn it over. Drew Brees, and then I love me some Jameis. I could go with that upside.
You don't like that?
On my team.
See, to me, he's off my board for that.
I'm sure because of the interception. But he could be QB1 this year. He can. I mean, I'm there. The weapons he has are amazing. If OJ Howard can stay healthy, neither of us believe in that running game. And they're going to be throwing the ball because their defense is going to stink. They're going to be in shootouts with the Falcons, the Saints, and the Panthers this year. Winston's not going to have a short leash with Arians. They're going to give him a long leash, whether he hangs himself or not, and he's going to throw 15 interceptions. I'm fine with that. He's going to throw 30-plus touchdowns. He's going to throw for over 4,000 yards. I just think, and he can mix in 4 or 5 rushing touchdowns at the end of the day. And it's sneaky. Listen, John, like you said,
you can have. Listen, I know you're a fan.
You said, you gotta zig while others are zagging. And
that's
granted, the tide is turning, it seems like, in the fantasy community on Jameis Winston. A lot of people think he's easily a QB1 this year, up in the top 10, top 12. I think he can be QB1 this year. I do. I don't think he will be, but I think it's in his range of outcomes. And he doesn't have a Ryan Fitzpatrick playing out of his fucking mind and relegating him to the bench, before he inevitably turns into Pumpkin Fitzpatrick again and throws 6 picks in a game. So
if you
give me those
if you really want to punt quarterback, I mean, and let's say you go to 10th and the 11th, is Derek Carr and let's say, Andy Dalton, Marcus Mariota, that might not be that awful.
Listen, you're talking my language now. This is where I want to live because then I'm stealing value in all the other positions.
Yeah, you're pushing me that way, and I had my whole draft strategy here, and you've fucked it all up. Maybe I'll take one quarterback early, and then
just
pound the other positions.
Just like guys like it this and look at it. Whatever you sent me is just broken down by draft dates, I guess. 802 Jimmy Garoppolo, 803 Josh Allen, and then when I scrolled down, I saw another guy. I was like, oh, okay, I can deal with that. There was another guy down in this range. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger, 704. I mean, you're talking. You already filled up 3 running backs or 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, and a tight end before you have to go quarterback, and you could potentially end up with a Ben Roethlisberger, or a Mitchell Trubisky. Trubisky at 711, Kirk Cousins at 712. I'm not a big Cousins fan this year, but if he's my QB2.
I don't have Trubisky's game log in front of me, but I have a feeling that he cracked 50 yards rushing quite a bit, didn't he?
He sure did.
I don't know if the passing totals will be there, but even if 5 games a year, that's another 25 points at your disposal.
Yeah, he missed a couple games, but he had a few massive rushing days and some big pass days as well. That got sneaky athleticism, so there's a little of that 50 rushing bonus to be had for those type of quarterbacks. That can go a long way, and that's why I like the Lamar Jacksons, the Kyler Murrays, Josh Allen, to a lesser degree, Cam Newton. I don't think Cam's got many 50-yard rushing days left in him, but
yeah.
Now you're a rising tide.
I don't like what you did here. I had a strategy going into this, and now I'm all discombobulated.
Yeah, I was just saying, we were texting before we went live here, and I said, John, have you done any research? And you wrote, oh, yeah. And I wrote, not me. Do you have any fantasy ADP for this? And he kindly sent me this link. So that's what I'm
ruined everything with some off-the-cuff comments.
I mean, the beauty of it is
I said
me to work through my process.
I said Deshaun Watson in the second, but right behind him in ADP is Andrew Luck. And the more I've thought about that, I mean, that 300-yard bonus is probably going to come pretty often for those Colts, isn't it?
One would think so. I think their defense is going to be better. They are a team that does want to run the ball. I think Deshaun Watson probably presents better upside because he'll run the ball a little bit. And I think that the Texans defense is going to be pretty bad, all things being considered, and their offensive line might be marginally better, but not a lot better. If you tell me that the combination of DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller, and Kiki Kuti play 14 games each, he's going to have a massive year. Because they're going to have to score. And I still don't trust any of their tight ends. Warren's not going to do anything this year. But
you talked me out of it and then talked me right back into it.
Yeah, I like Watson.
I'm not taking quarterback. No, I'm like, all right, Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I would take Watson over Luck, but I still wouldn't take Watson in the second. So I'm not going to end up with any of these guys. One, because I'm pigeonholed because I'm not. There's no way I'm taking a quarterback in the top 13. So
now here, going back to the back half of the second, if I take at my pick, which is 205, going ADP wise, going after that pick, guys would be available to me. Juju, Deshaun, Andrew Luck, Zach Ertz, George Kittle, Mike Evans, Dalvin Cook, Antonio Brown, Nick Chubb, and I'm going into the third round here. I don't like any of those position players significantly more than I like the upside of Watson or Luck there.
See, I would think you would have probably tipped the cap for your boy Nick Chubb of all of them. We have how many game suspension for Kareem Hunt? 8?
8, and then they have the bye on 9, so coming back week 10. But like I said, where this league, where shit really matters is the playoffs, I don't know how much Hunt is going to eat into Chubb's workload to close out the year. So for me, despite my love for Nick Chubb and Dynasty and redraft and everything else, where the playoffs, it becomes so important to have big totals and guys are going to be on the field, I don't know what Chubb's workload is going to look like in weeks 13, 14, and 15, and 16. So I'm staying away from him.
You got to get there first, though, John. Don't already look ahead to those playoffs.
It's true. Didn't Kareem Hunt was just questioned by the cops again, so maybe he misses the whole year.
Listen, buy low, but it's funny. Another one. I'm just stuck on this 7-2 ADP, and Baker Mayfield went at 311, and Matt Ryan, who continues. I don't like Matt Ryan, but he puts up fantasy points. He was the second highest scoring quarterback last year in this format. He went at 404. You're telling me I can start with Mixon and pick an alpha wide receiver like a Julio, a Beckham, an MT, a Juju, and then I can go Baker Mayfield, Matt Ryan in a 3-4 turn.
It's not a bad start.
That's looking mighty tasty to me. I had fully anticipated a 5-6 quarterback turn, and depending on who falls, I might still go there because call me crazy, John. There's a distinct possibility that Josh Jacobs is on my Scott Fishbowl team.
I mean, where's he going? Did you find him in the ADP?
Yeah, he's right here at 407 in one of the recent mocks. And he's going ahead of
Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry's one spot above him in this mock. Right before Devonta Freeman, Brandon Cooks, Carson Wentz, your boy Julian Edelman, O.J. Howard, Cam Newton, and given the tight end premium and the super flex nature, a lot of those names probably could and should go in front of them. David Montgomery's right there at 502. I just believe Josh Jacobs could touch the ball 300 times this year. And these first down bonuses, and he is going to catch the ball, so these half-point reception bonuses, he's going to string together a couple 50-yard rushing, 50-yard receiving games that might not look that pretty, but he's going to get another 10 points there on a 100-yard game. He's going to catch 5 or 6 balls to get there, so give me another 3 points. That's 23 points for him on a 100-yard, 6-reception day, without a touchdown. I think he carries kind of sneaky upside given this format because he's going to be their primary back. He's going to stay on the field in passing situations. So it's going to give him that 50-50 upside. And those are the guys I'm looking for.
I didn't even think of that, but yeah, there are a lot of opportunities for, like you said, guys who may not look good in real football, but a guy who was 50-50 and he's getting you 10 points for the yards and another 10 in bonuses, and he's got 20 already with what on paper doesn't look like that great of a game, like you said, going 50 for 50. Who popped in my head when you said that was my boy Austin Eckler.
The name that just popped into my head was Jalen Samuels.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly possible. I mean, I know people are all excited because Connor had said he's expecting a similar workload, but to me, he did not say the same. Similar and same are two totally different things, and to me, similar means it'll be close, but not the same.
Well, and that was after a week earlier he said that we're going to be on the field at the same time a lot. Yeah. And, blah, 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 and this and that. So I think he was running it back after that where it's like, oh, crap. The dynasty community is going to hate me because of 1 year flash in the pan, and I'm not even going to be an RB1 this year.
Yeah, another thing that's overlooked, and it probably should be, it's not too relevant, you're also getting 6 points for return touchdowns this year. I don't remember if that was the case last year. You're not getting the yardage, which to me doesn't move the needle at all because the return touchdowns are pretty rare, and a lot of the guys that do return kicks and punts aren't fantasy mainstays necessarily. A few of the names that I wrote down, though, guys that were punt returners that are going to be on fantasy rosters, if you're drafting and you can't decide between two people, maybe the possibility of getting the 6 points if they return a kick for a touchdown. Punt returners last year, Tariq Cohen, Tyler Lockett, Chester Rogers, Adam Humphries, Christian Kirk, my man Julian Edelman again, Tyreek Hill, and Dede Westbrook. And then kickoff returns, it actually wasn't a very good list of fantasy relevant guys, but Richie James, Corey Coleman, Cordarrelle Patterson, and Tyler Lockett again. So Lockett was returning kicks and punts. I know there's been some rumbling of getting somebody else to do it this year since Lockett's going to be their number 1 wide receiver. But, if he returns 2 of those throughout the year, it might be just enough to win you a matchup and get you into the playoffs.
Yeah, I was going to say I have a sneaky feeling that Tyler Lockett will not be doing those things this year because they just can't afford to have him do that as he's going to be the primary receiver in that offense. So, yeah, there's some value to be had there. I believe the format was exactly the same last year where you got the touchdown but you didn't get the yards. So it's not like it's our boy Andy Singleton's drafting with Giants where punt returner specialists are going in the 3rd round. Yeah, blowing my mind because I never checked the scoring format for the league when I went in. But
that's what I did. Yeah, I drafted a lot of weird guys.
Yeah,
Andre Roberts. Yes, sir.
Oh, this one guy was throwing every name at the in the book for punt returners. I'm just like, Jesus Christ, what's going on here? These guys, there's something we don't know. I was like, boy, does he, because I just checked the scoring in the 8th round, and I've been ignoring this altogether. So
You missed all the kick returners.
oh yeah, I got run over in that league. Yeah, my team was awesome in a traditional league, but I couldn't keep pace with all the yardage and bonuses that you got for being a specialist. So more power to them. But there's a little bit of value that probably wouldn't pivot me much, because none of those names were guys that I'd probably really be interested in. Obviously Tariq Cohen has some value. I think he'll probably maintain that role because his role is not going to expand on offense. So he'll probably still be the punt returner. So he gets a little extra juice there, but I don't think he's going to have any extra touches on this offense after them drafting Dave Montgomery and bringing in Mike Davis. So he might actually touch the ball less on offense. I would not be the slightest bit surprised, because he was handling a bulk of that receiving down work, because Jordan Howard just does not possess that ability. And Dave Montgomery and Mike Davis both are passable, even plus pass catchers. So I can see Cohen's value dropping, so he might need a little bit of that punt return value to get
you
back.
You wonder if he does see a decreased workload, if it makes him, he's well rested. Does it make him a more explosive returner? Obviously, the guy's electric with a football in his hands. If he is off the field more on offense and is rested up a little bit, does he maybe return a few more kicks, punts for touchdowns this year? So you could see a little bonus there for him that you weren't expecting. Even though his offensive numbers might be down, his scoring may be up for Scott Fishbowl scoring.
It's tired. Like, where is Mr. Tariq Cohen going? 7-3 in the one league I'm looking at. That's not terrible.
Considering the other running backs around him, like I said, using the kick return stuff as like a tiebreaker, Chris Carson or Tariq Cohen? Give me the punt return touchdowns. Give me Tariq Cohen. Who else goes just after him? It's actually a big drop off. Goes Cohen, Carson, and then big drop to Lamar Miller halfway through the 8th. So give me Cohen over those guys.
Yeah, no argument there. I mean, like you said Chris Carson, and my brain immediately went to Rashad Penny, who went 8-12 in this one. I'm probably going to have a little Rashad Penny in my SFB life as well, because I think there's a better than 50% chance he leads that backfield in fantasy points this year.
Certainly possible.
In the 8-9 world, like you were saying, you got to zig while others are zagging. He could be a guy that's a pretty decent running back 2 flex that you're getting.
Yeah,
that 8-9 turn.
Don't disagree at all. I mean, like people have said it before. There's just this weird thing. It seems like Pete Carroll just loves Chris Carson, so you wonder if that interferes with it. But they also drafted Rashad Penny. But Carson's had trouble staying healthy, so I know you're a big Penny guy. I don't fault you for wanting to take him early. The upside's there. If he ends up getting the starting job, there's no reason he can't be a fantasy producer, especially with the volume that team ran the football with last year.
Yeah, I mean, I forget what the exact number was, but it was over 170 touches that Mike Davis had last year in that offense, and that was with Chris Carson touching the ball like 250 times, and I think roughly Rashad Penny was like at 80, 90, maybe 100.
Ridiculous.
Off the top of my head. So I don't think Chris Carson's built to handle much more than that. He's ended the last 2 seasons hurt, or he's hurt now after last season. So he can still have his 250 to 270 touches, and that could leave Rashad Penny with a close to 200 touch opportunity in this offense. It wouldn't surprise me if they had 2 backs with 200 plus touches this year, and you're getting a significant discount on Rashad Penny still, even though, Chris Carson's, I don't even know what surgery he had, but he was riding around on one of those little scooters with his leg in a cast during mini camp. So give me Rashad Penny.
Going down the list, looking at running backs, I think Latavius Murray in the 10th round is a steal. He's somebody I'll be trying to grab. I'll probably take him in the 9th just to make sure I get him, assuming he fills the Ingram role, which there's no reason to think he won't. A little bit later in that round is LaShawn McCoy, who I am not touching at all. I can't even believe he's going as high as he is. Like 10-9? No, thank you.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't know that he's the starting running back for the Buffalo Bills. I've said that a few times on here. There's a significant chunk of change that they could save by moving on from him, and why sign Frank Gore and why draft Devin Singletary and then why sign TJ Yeldon. If you have even this year plans for LaShawn McCoy being your feature back.
Yeah.
If they don't cut him, he's not touching it 250 times with those three other guys there. I mean, Frank Gore is going to get his 100-plus touches. They're going to sprinkle in Singletary. They drafted him, and why give Yeldon a deal? It's going to be – if they don't cut LaShawn McCoy, it's going to be super ugly in Buffalo. So probably best for all parties if they release him and let him go somewhere else to possibly get decent touches. But it's not going to happen in Buffalo. I want nothing to do with LaShawn McCoy.
I mean, that team, I think we said it before we were even recording. We were talking about that other draft, but wide receivers, pretty muddled. Running back, unless somebody gets cut, pretty muddled. I mean, I like Josh Allen, the upside with his legs, and he's had some big games to close the year, but that's an offense I don't want any part of just because there's so many people all over the place. And what's the tight end kid they drafted that everybody's high on? Dawson Knox.
Yeah, I love Dawson.
I mean, no, I liked him too coming in, but same thing, you've got a rookie tight end, an inaccurate quarterback. They brought in a ton of wide receivers. They drafted and brought in running backs. They don't know what's going on with McCoy and the people that are already there. That is a messy situation that will not be cleared up in time for me to draft anybody, at least for Scott Fishbowl.
Nah, they couldn't fall to value enough. I agree with you 100%.
I would be bills free this year.
Yeah, I mean, I could see Josh Allen. I mean, he possesses the upside, especially given these, 50-yard rushing bonuses and the potential for 300-yard passing bonuses, and the cannon of arm he has. They do have John Brown there and Robert Foster, great deep ball guys, and then Zay Jones should probably eat in the middle of that field, and most of those running backs, albeit you don't want them for the Scott Fishbowl. They can help Josh Allen. As far as dump offs, they're all capable pass catchers. So they surrounded him with quote unquote talent. They don't have a wide receiver one in a group, and they probably don't have a running back one currently to speak of. They got a shitload of wide receiver threes and running back twos, I guess you could potentially say, where that just might mean that Josh Allen's the value to be had here. None of those individual players.
7-11, going pick 7-11 in ADP right now.
Always open. Who was that? It was 7-11. That was his nickname, Freddie Mitchell.
Maybe. I think you're right.
Yeah.
If you're picking, what is it, 11th pick in the 7th, you could get Josh Allen and come back with Jimmy G in the 8th. Talking about punting quarterbacks earlier. There you go. That's not terrible. The upside's there. They could both shit the bed, and your team could be fucking awful. But if they both live up to expectations, that could be a nice, solid pick at 7-8 after you've got 3 wide receivers and 3 running backs.
It's very true, and I think Garoppolo is a sure floor type guy. I know he doesn't have the extensive history, but Shanahan quarterbacks. I mean, just look at what Nick Mullins was doing at the end of last year. I mean, I think I forget who said it. I was listening to a podcast yesterday or today and said that when you put all the San Fran quarterbacks together last year, they ended up being QB 10. And we're talking about only a few games from Garoppolo, mostly Beathard and Mullins, and they still were QB 1 at the end of the year. He just schemes it, and they have much better talent than they had there last year. There's Kittle. You're going to get a second year of Pettis. You got Deebo Samuel there. You brought in Jordan Matthews. You got 100 running backs that know how to catch the ball in that offense. Jimmy Garoppolo, that late, and with the upside of Allen, that might be a nice little stack right there after you're already 7 deep at, running back, wide receiver, and tight end.
Like Nick Mullins didn't play until week 9, and he still finished QB 32.
Yeah, he has 4 different 20-plus point games. It just gets it done in that offense.
Yeah, he averaged 17 points a game.
Yeah, I mean you'll take that, from your QB2, in the 8th round in the Scott Fish Bowl. Sign me up. When I'm looking at a better running back and wide receiver room than most people are playing against any given Sunday.
2 points more a game than Sam Darnold. Just saying.
There you go. Give me some Nick Mullins / Jimmy G. Where is Kyler Murray going?
Kyler Murray is currently going. I thought he was going earlier. I looked at the top, but he's not. He is going middle of the 5th.
Let's say because he's
5.
He's going to be someone people just want on their team this year. In case he is quote unquote this year's Pat Mahomes, where he's just running around slinging it. You get Kingsbury coming out and saying he wants to run 90 plays a game, and I'm
writing a thing for DLF about the coaching changes and everything, and Kingsbury. They're either going to be really good or it's going to be dumpster fire right out the gate. There's very little wiggle room. I think we'll know pretty early in the year which way it's going to go. I get people are high on it, and like you said, all the sound bites. We're going to run this many plays a game, and my gut tells me that this is going to be bad news.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury has done nothing to deserve this opportunity.
There's never been a less deserving NFL coach.
Yet here we are,
Yes.
But you think about it, I mean, you got steady as they come Larry Fitzgerald. You got Christian Kirk, who should take the second-year leap. You brought in Isabella and Hakeem Butler, and that's not even mentioning Keyshawn Johnson. You really don't have a tight end to speak of, but they bring Charles Clay in there, and you got Ricky Seals-Jones, who could, I guess, be something. You got David Johnson, who's one of the best pass-catching running backs out of the backfield. And Kyler Murray's uber athletic, and just watched him carving up defenses, at Oklahoma last year. So, and couple that with the fact that I don't think their defense is going to be very good this year. So I don't know that Kyler Murray's going to let them be a dumpster fire. I think the coach could fail miserably, but I still see him hanging points.
The offensive line sucks, though. That's an issue. I mean, he's mobile, which will help him, but he's going to get hit often, I think.
I don't disagree. I mean, that's been the entirety of Deshaun Watson's career, and he's figured it out. Yeah. He's a bigger gentleman than Kyler Murray is, but at the end of the day, that's what the benefit of being a mobile quarterback has. You can extend plays, you can avoid hits. You get those chunk plays because you're able to extend the play and get out of the pocket. So I don't disagree that the line stinks, and I don't think Arizona's going to be a good team from an NFL perspective this year. But I'm buying in to a pretty big season for Kyler right out the gate.
I wouldn't be shocked to see it. Like I said, I just my gut reaction is dumpster fire. I think it's going to be bad news. I won't be shocked at all if it ends up coming to be, wow, what a football revelation this team and system and quarterback are. But if I'm a betting man, I'm betting against it.
Yeah, I mean it's well within your rights there. It's again, given this league format, I think it kind of pushes him up the board a little bit. I mean, he's ahead of Goff and Breeze, and it's because neither of those guys are sexy the way they go about it. These just pocket passers that are just smart with the ball and in high octane offenses with genius head coaches. That they're just going to score points. But Kyler Murray is what they say, the Konami code at the end of the day. I mean, he's a dude he can throw for 300 and rush for 50. Any given Sunday. And I don't think he's a turnover prone type guy. He's he didn't present as such in college. Not a window's closed in the pros. So he's a rookie, so he's going to throw some untimely interceptions, but he's probably also going to run for 5 touchdowns, which will help offset any of those terrible passes that ends up getting picked or potentially pick 6.
So before we close this out, going to put you on the spot a little bit. Who, looking through the ADP that you've got there, who do you see as the best value so far at current ADP, and who do you think is being grossly overdrafted?
We can start with grossly overdrafted because I think I took a shot at him early, and it's James Conner, to be early second. I just don't.
I have him in 112 on a couple of these mocks also.
Yeah, I mean he's 202 here, so you're talking at that turn, and he's a guy that's likely going to be available or potentially available when I pick, and I wouldn't even consider him. We talked about him earlier in some of the sound bites. One, I think James Conner faded. He got hurt, and then you saw kind of the emergence, out of necessity of Jalen Samuels. But then even in that Week 17 must-win game, Conner got the carries. Jalen Samuels was getting all the targets in that offense. So if you tell me that Conner loses that passing game volume that he had previously and Pittsburgh starts to shy away even slightly from that kind of bell cow back mentality that they had, just about all of my fantasy existence, and he's not the guy that's 20 touches per game in 2019, I don't see him returning value at 202. And I also think Benny Snell could eat a little bit into that running downs work too. So I think Connor's going to lose a lot of touches. He should still find 8 or 10 touchdowns at the end of the day, but I don't see him as a 50 reception guy. I don't see him as a 1,500-yard guy. I don't want him, at the end of the first, beginning of the second. I mean, Gurley's going after him. I take Gurley. Dalvin Cook's going half a round after him. I'll take Dalvin Cook all day before him. We were just talking Nick Chubb earlier. I mean, who knows what Kareem Hunt's going to do after Week 10 when he comes back, if he comes back. But, tell me that Chubb's going to have the lion's share of that offense for the balance of the fantasy season. I'll take Nick Chubb over James Conner all day. And I know you don't agree with this statement, but Damian Williams at present is the starting running back for the Kansas City Chiefs. We know what that means in fantasy. If I can get Damian Williams at 303 or a round after James Conner, I mean, that to me is just stealing upside there. And that's not even getting down into names like Leonard Fournette, Marlon Mack, Aaron Jones. I mean, there's just so many running backs that I probably like more regardless of value than James Conner, to be totally honest with you. I'm just not even talking about them at their value. I like most of the guys I listed over James Conner this year. So James Conner is a guy I will not own. And if we're talking about some solid value, just scrolling.
Well, I'll jump on to guys I think are going way too early. George Kittle. I'm not taking him tail end of the second with everybody else that's still available on the board at that point. The Niners, drafted some wide receivers. They got the rest of their wide receivers coming back healthy from last year that got banged up, that enabled Kittle to put up the monster numbers he did last year. I just don't see where he gets the same volume. Didn't he have something crazy like 1,300 receiving yards last year?
He set the record for receiving yards. I think like 1,300.
There's just no way he's going to come close to being, what is he being drafted? 210, the 10th most valuable fantasy asset. There's just no way. It's not possible. Yeah, unless everybody gets hurt again. So I think Kittle's going way overdrafted. Ertz right above him. I mean, I said I was going to take Kelsey early. I just didn't see the value. Same with Ertz. I mean, he had a huge touchdown totals. They got Goddard more involved last year. I think he'll be more involved this year going forward. I just don't see the value with both of those tight ends. And like I said, for me, I'm going to just pound the tight ends late in this draft because I don't see them returning value this early.
I'm with you 100%. I was in the 112 Twitter DM group chat, and we were talking about strategy and stuff and all that, and talking about, if a tight end falls to you at the turn in the 1-2. And I said, I'd see warts on all three of the big three. Kelsey's rehabbing from an injury right now and just had another massive season. We were talking about the Pat Mahomes regression, so that could eat into his upside. George Kittle was the only show in town in San Fran last year, and largely the production wasn't even with Jimmy Garoppolo. And now you have Pettis, you have those running backs. You brought in Deebo Samuel. He's just not going to see that volume, just out of necessity. And I agree with Ertz. I think Goddard's going to chew into his workload. They're going to run a lot of 2 tight end sets. That's what they're saying in Philly. I think Goddard is uber talented. He is go get him in Dynasty if people are willing to sell him, because he might be a year or two away from being a primary tight end in Philadelphia. I think Ertz is coming up on being expendable from a contract perspective, and I think Goddard's the real deal. But I agree with you. I'm not touching any of those guys. But to the counter that value that I'm seeing is I got all the way down to the 13th round, and I started seeing some names that I'm actually pretty partial to. And you talk tight end, 1305 in this one mock is Mark Andrews for Baltimore. Give me Mark Andrews all day. I think he's dripping with upside. He's going to be the passing down. He's going to be the pass catching tight end in this Baltimore offense. He developed a connection with Lamar Jackson, and largely everyone else in that receiving corps is new. So I think he has sneaky top 10 tight end upside this year, regardless of the format, especially in given this tight end premium. And then the others, if I'm going to take a shot at James Conner, I got to say that Jalen Samuels at 1307. Sign me up for that guy who's probably your running back 5, in the 13th round, maybe even your running back 6, depending on your splits. And I think he's a guy that right out of the gate you're going to be able to put in your flex position.
Yep. Yeah, for me, values, I had Andrews circled on my sheet too. He's moving up a little bit because in the first group of mocks that went through starting last month, he was 13-12. So he is scooting up in that 13th round a little bit. I wouldn't be shocked to see him go in the 12th when draft time comes around next week. Going around earlier from him in the 12th round, we talked about him before we started recording, Geronimo Allison, Green Bay Packers. Even if he is beat out by Marquez Valdez-Scantling to be the number 2, that just bumps Allison down to the number 3 spot. And they've already been talking about working him out in the slot, which with this being a PPR league, that's another guy. You could see 5 catches for 50 yards every week, and you're getting that 5-point bonus for those 50 yards. The volume's there with the 5 catches. If he can stay healthy, there's no reason he can't grossly outperform this 12th round ADP this year, not just in this setting, but any leagues. He's somebody I'm pretty high on everywhere else. And then going up to the 10th, I already mentioned him, but Latavius Murray, 111th player overall off the board. I'm not sure what running back he is, but just at a quick glance, he's got to be down in like RB 20 something. I think he has legit top 15 running back upside, which would be a hell of a return on somebody you're taking in the 10th, especially when everybody's pounding running back early. To get the early return on a running back who you're drafting that late, it's pretty hard to find it. I'm pretty shocked that most of the fantasy community isn't as high on him. I don't know I'm not sure why. I don't get it, because he's just going to fill the Mark Ingram role. So welcome to RB2ville with RB1 upside.
I'm with you. Yeah, and he's 10-01 in this mock with Darrell Henderson going at 904. And give me Latavius Murray 10 times out of 10. This is not a dynasty league. this is a redraft league, and I gladly have Latavius Murray as my RB3, but here he's going to be your RB4.
Darrell Henderson, Jordan Howard, Ronald Jones, Royce Freeman, LaShawn McCoy, Damian Harris. That's who he's going around. He's going to blow that entire group out of the water.
Yeah, I'm with you. There was another guy as I scrolled down that I said I wanted to bring up. Why can't I not? Oh, 17-12, Ian Thomas. We're talking this tight end premium. Yeah. I'm still not certain that Greg Olsen plays football this year. I'm not. I know his foot's healed, that he's in camp, and I'm sure he has a nice chunk of change coming his way. But at that price, Ian Thomas is just free and dripping with upside. He'll probably be my tight end 3 in the Scott Fish Bowl, as long as nothing changes between now and next week, because I think he can have value even if Olsen isn't hurt. I think there's a better than 0 chance Olsen gets hurt again, and I think there's a better than 0 chance that Olsen doesn't ever play football again still. So get your Ian Thomas at the 17-18 turn, and he's a guy that in that starter's role is a tight end 1.
See you later. Mark Andrews and Ian Thomas in our future.
Yeah, listen, sign me up right now for that. If I can't get Eric Ebron at value, I will wait and take I'll go with that Andrews, Ian Thomas stack in this league 10 times out of 10. I mean, I might have to pivot to Jared Cook if Ebron's not there, because I got to stay on brand. But yes, those 2 late Or they're just
I'm not
they're
even
just stealing.
seeing my other sleeper late round guy. Give me fucking Darren Waller with my 20th pick in the draft.
Yeah, I actually scrolled past him. He was higher than I thought.
Maybe I did the same.
Than I expected him to be. He went before Ian Thomas. I remember seeing his name, I believe. Was I wrong?
I see Oakland guys, but not him. I see Terrell Williams, Jalen Richard.
I got him right here at 1408 in the July 2nd mock. So, yeah, that.
Oh, he is mid 14th. That's disgusting. I'm not taking him there.
Yeah, right after Jordan Reed. I'm taking Jordan Reed 10 times out of 10 if I'm taking a tight end at that point. I mean, Mike Gesicki, the upside of Gesicki over Waller probably makes him more appealing, and I'm not doing that. Jason Witten, no thank you. Moving on. I'm not taking a tight end at that point.
Yeah, that's not a value for Waller. I'm surprised. No. Oh, his name has picked up some steam then.
Yeah, that is yucky.
He was entirely undrafted a month ago. Or I'm sorry, 2 months ago. He started showing up in ADP last year because I was looking up a bunch of different guys' ADP on the DLF ADP tracker, and he has been undrafted until the June mocks, and he was going like 100, not 120. He was going in the 20th rather, and he just showed up. So it's crazy that he's 14th round here. I won't be touching him there too much.
Nah, I got to thank Christopher Bean. For that one. Yeah, the Bean bump.
Leading the way there.
Listen, I'm scrolling down. I think we touched on a fair number of guys, but there's this little cluster of wide receivers that seem interesting to me because they're late dart throws. But all within the 15th round of this ADP are Devontae Parker, Dante Moncrief, Josh Gordon. Do any of those gentlemen appeal to you that late in the draft?
I mean, to be honest, Josh Gordon, he's got the upside. And like I said earlier, it's all about the playoffs. But if Josh Gordon plays, when's he going to play in the fantasy playoffs? So for me, in the nature of the way this league shakes out and wanting to get points at the end of the year, I would prefer to roll the dice on Josh Gordon. I'm not going to take any of these guys. But if I hit gun to my head, I'm taking Josh Gordon.
See, that's the name for me too. I was actually surprised it was that high, because there hasn't been any news that, there's a, to what degree this, he was catching balls from Tom Brady somewhere, and so all of a sudden he went from undrafted to the 15th round in the Scott Fish Bowl. I mean, I would assumed I could get him in the 20th round, a week from now. So if he's sitting later in the draft, I will certainly throw a dart at Josh Gordon because if he suits up, he's the best receiver. I'm not going to disrespect Julian Edelman, the best outside receiver on the Patriots. He has somewhat of a rapport with Brady.
He's the most explosive.
Definitely the most explosive. I'm not going to buy in. I'm not buying in the rookie year N'Keal Harry doing anything of significance from a fantasy perspective. So Gordon has 1,000-yard, 10-touchdown upside. If he only plays 10 games. I mean, we saw him do it in Cleveland over 14 games. A mere few years ago, I think in 2013. So if he can get back on that football field for one more shining season, that's the type of guy that you're drafting. Like I said, deep in that 15th round. I would hope later that could win you this league.
I can't disagree at all. I mean, the explosive play potential is there if he can get on the field. That's his problem, is actually playing football.
There's a big old if.
That's a bad problem to have.
It is. He enjoys other things more. But
life.
Yeah. He's the Andrew Burke of the NFL.
I think that pretty much wraps it up for us. Hopefully, if you're in Scott Fish Bowl, this will help you prepare a little bit for your drafts. Be sure to check out fantasycares.net and at FFCares. If you can donate a little something that goes to a good cause, I'm sure Scott would like to top the $44,000 that were donated last year, which is pretty ridiculous when you think about it. Check out the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast Network. Walk, you got
I don't believe I
anything
said it at
else?
the beginning, but we are proud members of the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast Network. So certainly check out their full listing of fantasy podcasts over there. But no, I am spent. I feel like I've developed a strategy, trashed a strategy,
Yes.
and we went back to square one on a strategy. So I have a few days to reconfigure things. But what I do know is if Joe Mixon's there at 112, I'm taking Joe Mixon.
Nice.
That is not going to change. I already have it on auto pick. That's how certain I am of it. I don't care who goes or doesn't go. I am planting my flag on Joe Mixon.
Tonight. Good luck to you, sir. Thanks for listening. iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, Spotify, pretty much anywhere podcasts are found.
Spreaker.
Subscribe.
Apparently.
Spreaker.
That's the thing.
Subscribe, like, comment, follow on Twitter at the Fantasy 40. If Andrew Burke is alive, the show will continue. If not, we'll have to find a new producer if he has passed away in the stomach of an alligator.
That is true. So all applications can be sent to thefantasy40@gmail.com in advance because we're already sitting on an episode. So who knows when this one's going to come the fuck out. So John and I don't have the capabilities, nor do we want to try and figure it out ourselves. We've struggled enough just hitting record on Google Hangouts. So Burke, please get back to Seattle or Washington State, not Seattle, where you belong, so life can get back to normal for the rest of us.
Help us help you.
Thank you.